Well, okay, I guess we're,
Okay.
so, I'll call the July 16th meeting of the planning board to order. My name is John Weiss, to my left,
George Morris.
to my right,
John O'Connell?
and to my far right.
Martha Taylor, Town Planner.
Okay, and so, our agenda tonight, first of all, the meeting minutes from June 18th. Do I have a motion on that?
So move.
Second?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved, okay. There are no appearances tonight?
No,
No?
none.
None?
Yeah, the TW Excavating is not ready yet, so they are hoping to file for our August meeting and then schedule the public hearing for the second meeting in September.
Do we know what the filing will entail, what they're thinking of doing there?
It's pretty much what they had discussed before.
Not a bunch of buildings, it's just
Yeah, they're not
basically
doing, yeah, it's gonna
groundwork.
be, and storage of materials, so the board is gonna be hearing both the site plan review and a special permit for open storage of materials,
Okay.
so.
Now, they gotta file,
And
they file with the Concom?
Doug had suggested that they file an RDA.
I would think they would have to, because, if for no other reason than the ditches. And they are across the street from more wetlands,
Right,
you know.
so,
I mean, I'm not sure just where they're working compared with wetlands, but
right, well, they're.
makes good sense to
yeah.
start doing RDA.
Well, there are
yeah.
wetlands along the front of the property on the
Yeah.
Newburyport Turnpike side
Yeah.
and also in the back, so, and their storage is close, so, anyway, Doug thought the
RDA makes good
RDA would
sense,
be.
yeah.
Have we heard anything further from the proponent about what might happen to the, what do you call them, the trailers?
The trailers?
The trailers? And when they might be moved, we don't know?
No, we don't know,
We just don't know, okay.
yeah, and I think they're using the office trailers that are there, they're not gonna make any change
Right,
to
right, no,
those,
then
so.
that's understood, okay. Okay. So we have the whole issue of our associate member and now, right? Do we have David's letter, by the way?
No.
We don't?
From him,
Yes,
resignation?
resignation.
I've not heard
But
anything.
we do assume that he closed today. We just haven't heard?
Right, yesterday I thought he was gonna close.
He was closing yesterday.
Okay. So we're waiting to get, I guess, an official resignation before we then realize that we have an associate position open and we have a full
Member
full,
position.
member position
Now,
open.
way back in the day, they would appoint, the selectmen would appoint a member. How does it work today?
Usually the board makes a recommendation,
Sure,
and then the selectmen appoint.
make an appointment.
Right.
For, until the next election
Until the
kind of
next
thing.
election for the full position.
Yeah.
For the associate, it would be for the fiscal year or whatever, a year appointment.
So whenever the next election is. yeah.
Right, right.
So I think we're still waiting to hear from some folks who had expressed an interest, but we
Yeah,
haven't. or
I
what?
contacted, I left a voicemail and haven't heard anything back, so I put my thinking cap on for other people who might.
Yeah,
be interested.
so if anybody has any thoughts, if anybody watching has any interest in becoming an associate member or full member, please let us know and contact Martha here at Town Hall. Do you have any thoughts, John?
Other than the ones we've talked about, there's a
Right.
couple of architects that I've talked to in the past that felt they were too busy at the
Yeah.
time. Mike Nee, the guy that's down at the Dole House, he's the curator of the Dole House.
Oh, okay.
As a, he works for, I don't know, one of the firms in between here and Cape Ann, and Bill Sally
Right.
also.
Right, I've talked to Bill.
You've talked to Bill,
A
is
number
he-
of times.
Is he at all interested at this point?
I don't know how busy he is, but he's one of the people who was on my list. So,
Yeah.
Bill, if you're watching,
Yes,
you're gonna be
Bill.
getting an email from me.
Yes. I'd like to see another engineer on the, but I don't know of one. We got several Capalucos live in town, but I'm not sure they'd be interested in it. They're pretty busy people. Phil is obviously extremely knowledgeable. He's not an engineer, but he knows what he's talking about. But he's He's pretty busy, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the other concern for some people is, you know, potential conflict of interest if they're gonna potentially be developing land themselves.
Well, yeah, but he's
But-
not in that position. You know, we're not gonna be building that many bridges. He's not a land development
Right,
person. He's a
right, so it
bridge
wouldn't
builder.
be,
I plan to talk to a real estate broker in my neighborhood, who will go unnamed.
Good.
And see if she has any interest.
Okay.
That would be good. That's
I
another,
think that's another name.
Yeah, I think you're right, an engineer slash architect, and then someone who might be in the brokerage community would be very good.
or someone, another attorney familiar with land use law.
Well, I don't think we want to get too lawyered up here, do we?
yeah, boy. Which I've been trying to figure out how to get rid of the one we've got, for heaven's sakes, you Lord. You get
Yeah.
another one?
Or a builder, somebody who's familiar with, you know, our zoning and
Yeah.
rules and regs and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Linda was very helpful when issues came up relative to what sells, what doesn't, what works, what
Absolutely.
doesn't financially, you know.
Yep,
Yep,
yep.
very, very helpful. Okay, so we have a list of things here that really were a majority of the issues that we talked about last time on the priorities that we might have. And I guess we are absent a board member, but I still think it's worthwhile to talk through these and just get a sense for, I guess, we went through this once last time, but I mean, it'd be interesting to hear each of ours opinion about these and which ones we think ought to be starred and move forward in the coming year. I might add that, you know, without having additional members here, it's pretty tough for the three of us to be affirmative in a lot of these things. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty tough, but I mean proactive. But anyway, so maybe talk about sea level rise. These were mentioned by John and myself.
I
And-
talked to the Newburyport sea level rise person as requested. It's Julie, how do you say it?
Gottfriedson.
Gottfriedson, yeah. She was quite interested actually in working with us for obvious reasons. I mean, you have to go through Newbury underwater to get to Plum Island Point, which is Newburyport. And we are the tourniquet on the drainage of the industrial park. And there's one bridge in particular that raises 7 kinds of hell with the drainage system in the park. So, you know, just kind of went through those issues, and she was quite interested in talking. She is not remotely interested in a large firm. She has been burned by large consultants. She is, and I kind of share this interest. I have had personally very, very good luck with academic consultants. They don't have the access to grind that commercial ones do, and they're on the cutting edge of knowledge. And she and somebody else from the city, I think it might have been Andy, had gone to a seminar up at Antioch University, which is not the same as Antioch College. Apparently there was a break there. There's 5 campuses for Antioch University. And one of them is in the same town as Antioch College. You can only assume that there was a disagreement somewhere. But there's a branch in Nashua, and there's a professor or two there that are have set up a side business consulting on sea level rise planning. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I kind of haunt the Stormwater Center in New Hampshire for obvious reasons. I go to every seminar I can, to the point where they laugh at me when they see me coming. But anyway, the guy that runs that center, I was chatting with him, and it came out of the conversation that he was part of the team that had done the Portsmouth, New Hampshire sea level rise initial plan. And the other one that he was working with, who was the key person, was Dr. Paul Kirshen, who was one of the speakers down at the storm surge. And so I'd be in favor of talking to both of those at some point. And I haven't written Wendy off entirely. Wendy Goldsmith has sold to a firm down in the Carolinas. which is, who are all over the eastern part of the US, or east of the Mississippi.
One of the things that's not clear in this announcement, at first when I read it, not too carefully, I thought she was moving to Pittsburgh.
I don't think so. I think this is
I
gonna
think
be a
she's
local
just-
branch.
I think it's a
Yeah.
local branch.
Is
of
that
a
where
large-
they're out of Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it
Okay,
says,
I thought they were
says
Carolinas.
joined
Okay.
Chester Group, Inc. from Pittsburgh as
Okay.
vice president of bioengineering, and, but, you know, her new roles. So
I suspect that they're not gonna mess with the business that she's built up. They're just gonna make her a vice president in charge of that, and they will, it's very common that they would function as a sort of independent entity.
right,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know, you gotta, so. But anyway, that remains to be seen. We don't have a committee yet.
well, we don't have a committee,
And neither does Newburyport, for that matter.
they don't,
No, Julie seemed to think it would be a fairly small one, herself and Tony and John Eric.
Is Julie the Concom?
She's a Concom agent,
That's what I
yes.
thought. That's what I thought. Well, all right, I think that we don't yet know if we're gonna have money either from the master plan or a subset of the master plan to put forward for this.
Well, I had another thought on that, if I might. I'm not really a fan of advertising how much money we have for any study. So I would kind of like to mumble, and that part of money that we're talking about, let it be for the master plan, the open space plan, and initial planning for the sea level rise issue. However, it may be that this fiscal year, I don't know, is that money gonna last forever, or is that money just this year? That appropriation?
We didn't get it.
We didn't
No,
get
no,
it.
no, but when we do get it, assuming that we get it, is it gonna be for?
If it's from free cash, it would get carried
Okay,
over.
Okay, so that money would be there.
Right.
I would personally much prefer that we meet and try to work out for ourselves where our vulnerabilities are and think it through as best we can before we engage a consultant.
So I think that we need to do that with Doug.
Pardon me?
We need to have Doug part of that.
Well, I would think it would be largely the same group as except for the civilians. The Stormwater Committee is Martha, Doug, Debbie,
So maybe
Kim,
we
all
need
of
to,
whom are essential.
so maybe
and
we
Tracy
need,
and-
yeah, so maybe we need to get Tracy's blessing to go ahead and try to put that together. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would be good to talk to her
I
about it.
looked her over the other day, again.
She was still standing.
She kind of hides when she sees me coming.
Good, okay. So let's make sure she's finally okay with it, and
Yeah.
then let's see if she'll, because it's most of her staff. It
Yeah.
really is, right?
Yeah, there's several other people that, of course, I'm interested in it as a civilian, not representing the planning board. And I think Yvonne probably is too, but there's several other people. There's probably not that much room for civilians. You maybe want one or two people that are not town employees. But there's several people, other people I have in mind that could very well, they seem to be quite knowledgeable on the subject. If we can put them to work, it would be a good thing. They're not involved in town stuff right at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's always good to do that.
Both of
The
them
question
are out of
is,
Storm surge, and they both live in Newbury.
yeah, the question is, what do we do first? My sense is making sure that the town wants to do this, in other words, meaning the town administrator, and that maybe getting a definition of the issues from us, and then reaching out and pulling some other
Well,
folks into that. or
Frankly,
something.
I think it's a town issue rather than a planning board issue.
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are so many other departments. I mean, Debbie, this thing has an effect on both septic systems and wells, both of which can be rendered useless by sea level rise. Tim is an obvious player there.
Right.
And it's really gotta be kind of a town thing, not a planning board thing.
I agree. Yeah, it's not.
One other thought, just on the reporting on Julie. The other thing we didn't agree on anything because neither one of us had a portfolio. We were just talking. But having a member of our committee meet every time they meet and having one of their people meet with us, the ultimate, coordination. Because we share the Parker River watershed with them. Little River is a major, it runs right through the industrial park, and from Newburyport's perspective, that is an enormous potential problem for them.
Yes.
And we are, to a degree, the key, because we're downstream, and we're the ones that own the tourniquets, that we will, I mean, the Fore Rock Bridge, in my humble opinion, is gonna have to be replaced. I hate to see it, because it's historical as hell, but I don't see any other alternative to fixing that bridge and make it a bigger waterway. The second problem is the one on Hanover Street. That isn't as bad, but it is definitely a restriction.
Is that the lower end?
The one nearest Route 1,
Okay.
the one right by the North Reading Transportation job. Yeah, the state just, probably 10 years ago, rebuilt it in its entirety. And we tried to get it changed, because the state will mimic the existing waterway for environmental reasons. And so it was already blocking drainage, so they made it sure it continued to block drainage. But we didn't realize the extent of the problem until we flooded out Bixby one time. And at that point, I was going crazy trying to get some help for them. And the state said, no, you had your chance to comment on it, you didn't, so we're gonna build it the way we were planning on. But I think that could be fixed without rebuilding the bridge, because there's room. The Fore Rock Bridge, without rerouting the railroad, which is unthinkable, there's nothing much you can do except rebuild the bridge, which is a shame. It's a very interesting old bridge. I don't know how old it is, but that was the main highway to Boston, and I expect that's quite an old bridge. That's why it's called Boston Road.
Right.
Yeah, there was no Route 1 back in the day. And you went, the milestones are on, there's a milestone right near that bridge, and there's milestones along Middle Road. Milestone on the Governor Dummer
Yeah.
property.
The road would have not been able to go through the marshes, because they wouldn't have that technology yet.
It was gonna be a lot harder, yeah.
Same with 1A. That's why I just figured out Old Raleigh Road goes around the marsh, and that's
That
fine,
was fairly recent,
you know?
that cut there was, I'm gonna guess early 30s, maybe late 20s.
You know,
Well, if you look at, I have some old maps of 1A, and I think Newbury Neck Road was actually the original.
Oh, yeah, that was the way, yeah.
Yeah.
The cut through, by Eddie Boyle's shop there, that's new.
Yeah, that was 1930, I think.
Ish, yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
Okay,
Alrighty.
so, we do need to have, you're right, it needs to be, it needs planning board representation, but it is a town issue.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think the other thought I had was that perhaps from time to time, maybe not always, but some other members of our town hazard mitigation group, which was Chief Riley, Chief
The-
Pearson.
Oh, sure.
Pearson,
Sam.
the police and the fire have to be a part of that. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
because one of the decisions that will have to be made, I believe, is do we just abandon certain areas, or do we try to keep them access viable? And it may be we just say, okay, this particular area, we can't support it in a high tide situation. It's tough, but, there's a limit to,
That's why we're gonna have the consultants tell us that.
well, I don't think so. I think we need to fit, that's the kind of a thing you don't want consultants telling you.
Well, the consultants,
You need the technical backup for those
the consultants
decisions.
give us the
Give us
information.
the,
Upon which those.
upon
that-
which political decisions get made,
That's right.
hopefully correctly.
That's right. I mean, I think that's the most important thing, is to get somebody who can give us the best possible data about what to expect. I mean, the more I look at these things.
John, I really don't think that's gonna happen, probably for decades. I got misunderstood when I commented that we're gonna have to be adjusting this as we go. I did not mean, for God's sakes, that we wait until we get flooded before we decide what to do. But right now, we've got a very large window of maybe this and maybe that. You'd like to think as time goes on, and we see what's happening to the ice caps north and south, that window will close. And then the decisions will be easier. Right now, I mean, you can read National Geographic and get as good an answer as you get from the best consultant in the world.
Well, the range is so big.
Oh, yeah.
from-
Yeah,
It's hard to.
yeah, and that is not, anyone that says they know is kidding you. They don't know. Nobody knows.
Well, I think I understand that, but then so we say, all right, we're gonna take the least number, which is 1 foot. And then,
Maybe two.
and then someone says, no, I wanna take 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you need someone to assist you in saying, based on their professional knowledge, this is a good thing to plan for at this point in time. I just think that you need something like
Well,
that,
that would be very helpful if it were available.
if it was available.
You know, a 6-foot is an enormous expense. A 2-foot may be something that can be afforded.
Right.
It will mean we cut back on other things, but this is gonna be a terrible thing for the human race in general.
Right.
But private or public, one way or the other, an enormous amount of infrastructure has to be rebuilt in a very short period, within a century.
I'd be interested to see what Boston is doing, because they have really got themselves a bit
Oh,
of a
yeah.
pickle.
Oh, yeah, they painted themselves into a corner with a
And
big
I'd
dig.
be interested to see, are they gonna, now that they have a whole new review procedure set up for any new project that comes in that talks about sustainability, it talks about having things off the ground, it talks about all of these things, because most of South Boston, I mean, the latest map that I saw showed just a 3-foot rise going right to Faneuil Hall Marketplace. I mean, so with the storm surge and everything else. So, I mean, I'd be interested to see what they're doing. And it is very true. The thing that surprised me is that the sea level rise projected here, northeast, is much larger than it is.
Yeah, it is. This is a very
This is
vulnerable
like-
part of
this
the
is the most
continent. Yep.
And I'm not sure if I understand that, but it's warmer waters and a number of other things that seem to be
Yeah, I
part
think
of
it has a lot to do with what's going on in the Arctic.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we have a lot of work to do, and it'd be nice if we could get off the ground on it. And let's get, I mean, I think we should get started with a group.
John, you referred that study that was done for Situate.
I'm sorry?
John Weiss.
Oh, yeah.
Study that was done for Situate and 2 other towns.
Situate, Marshfield, and Duxbury?
Duxbury, I
Very
think.
minor. It was based upon, 25 years and 75 years out?
Yeah.
And it went progressive using photographs as demonstrations of what it would be in 25 years, not including storm surge or anything. And I read it and I thought it was very
No, it
interesting.
was a very good study. It was, who did that? I sent it
It's with
about
an F,
6 weeks ago. It was done by Kleinfelder.
Right.
Okay.
And the town had a $30,000 grant from the Gulf of Maine Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and they matched that with in-kind. And I think it might have been a $40,000 study, but it's pretty damn
Very
good study.
complete.
And they're moving forward with it. They have a very,
Yeah.
the 3 towns, they've had a energy department since 1995.
Hmm.
I mean, pretty good. Well, Situate's been ground zero for a long
Well,
time.
Situate, the whole Hummerock section that
Yeah.
forms the Situate Harbor is about elevation 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've worked
So-
out there,
Have you?
replacing
So, I
houses
mean,
that
it's-
washed away.
So it's worth our while, maybe, I sent that to you, maybe make
Yeah.
copies. Could you make copies of
Sure.
that? Do you have it?
Yeah,
You do?
yeah, yeah.
Could you make copies for us, and then maybe
One for
Doug, I don't
Tracy
know,
at
Tracy,
least,
one for
yeah.
Tracy that we can leave with her? That here's a good example of, it's much better than the one that we saw from Annapolis, that I thought, do you remember that one that we saw?
I do.
That was not as thorough as this study is, and this is so much more appropriate.
Yeah, this is more relevant to us, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay,
Well, I think we have 2 levels of consultant in our future. The first one being more of a planning kind of consultant, planning, but technical planning. And after that, now you're into the hydrology
oh, that's a whole
and,
different thing.
and, yeah, it's, at that point, it's largely almost 100% civil engineering. And, you know, watershed studies, how big does a waterway have to be in the bridge?
Did you get the sense that Wendy was more process-oriented. You saw her. Did you see her?
I saw her, yes. I spoke with her briefly.
Was she more like in the plan organization, bringing people together?
Yeah, the talk was in that fashion. She wasn't
It was,
talking
wasn't it?
technical. Well, she didn't have a technical audience, so that was probably deliberate. But I think that that firm has technical capacity, but they also have the planning capacity, which is a little unusual, I mean, for a small firm. Usually the smaller firms are one or the other. The big ones have all the,
Yeah. Well, I
Oh.
certainly was impressed with what I saw on the
Yeah.
YouTube. I mean, she was
yeah.
pretty
No, a
commanding.
lot of what she said was the process of how do you get people together and decide what the hell you're gonna do.
Okay, let's move on. The subdivision regs, you've been working on those,
I've been
Martha?
I've been working on those, and so what I'm hoping to, yeah, I know, I thought you'd be happy.
Oh, yeah, big smile.
What I'm hoping to do is to sit down with you
Okay.
within the next couple of weeks and make sure that we're on the same page. Because what
Yep.
I've been doing is I've been going through, through the revised version, looking at it against Mass General Law, and also against a couple of other ones which I think might be good examples. And there have been some inconsistencies in the language and some typos and stuff
Okay.
like that, which, have been there forever, so I'm
Sure.
trying to clean up some of those as well. So I'll have a redlined version
Great,
relatively soon, so if you and I can sit down and
Sure.
talk about that, and then
Love to.
hopefully have it ready to send out to the board for review for the August
oh,
meeting.
okay. great.
August?
Yeah,
Good.
that
Yeah,
will
that's
be the
wonderful,
target.
yeah. And you've been taking care of the administrative chapters too. There's
Yeah,
two or
I'll be
three
doing,
chapters
yeah,
that
I'll be
you-
doing that. I'm still,
particularly- you're
I'm
still
just
doing that.
starting from the beginning and working forward,
Yeah.
but,
You had sent me something that where Mass Dot had just revised their
yes,
detail manual.
yes.
I'm not sure I would want to reference that as a standard, but it probably wouldn't hurt to be thrown in as the board may, at its discretion, require that certain details be done in conformance with the MassDOT detail manual. It's, a lot of that stuff is overkill, and a great deal of it has absolutely nothing to do with what's ever going to be built new.
Right, I mean, it's probably much more highway.
Oh, yeah, it's the interstate kind of
Right,
quality
right,
stuff.
Right,
And
but they did, they did talk about,
they got some good stuff there too, yeah. So
so,
I think I'd rather, because we have holes in our thing, we don't, a lot of things we don't detail, and I'm just as happy to not detail them and let, but it would be handy to have this as a backup and say we have the right to
right, so we can talk
enforce.
about how
Sure.
to
We can negotiate,
get that in
yeah.
there.
That's not new, that's been around forever, this is
Right.
just a new version.
It's just a new, right,
Yeah.
right.
And my memory is that this document, which I did see a lot of about 2 years ago, but I haven't seen it in about 2 years, does
been a
not
while.
try to look at this issue of the small subdivision that everyone is talking
No,
about.
that's still on our agenda to do something about that.
So do we
and
wanna
I
add
don't know
that?
what to do.
Add that as this, or what do
We
you think is
did,
doable?
we did have that on our list. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that we can do that for this round.
No,
Oh,
I
that's
wouldn't think
okay.
so,
Yeah.
no.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but I think that,
No,
I
I
think
want
we
to get
should,
this out.
yeah,
No, no, no.
EPA told us
That's not a
10
problem.
years ago to
Okay.
fix it,
I
and we
have no
haven't.
problem with it not being with this round, but it sounds like it's more, well, it could be very important for us, right?
I think it is very important for us, because I
So-
think that, given the land that we have left, I think there are more
Small ones,
likely to
more
be
small
smaller
than
ones.
big ones.
And it's tremendously onerous for these small people to have to go through.
So when we've talked about this in the past, have we had any sense about other communities that have developed anything like this? Does your mass planners give you any insight?
I haven't seen anything there. I know that, I think the, land use reform bill addresses it.
It does.
In some fashion,
But
but
I'm
who
not
knows
sure what's
whether
gonna
that's gonna
happen
go
with that.
through, so. I think that, so I'd like to find out more and also,
So
talk
can
with
we
Ginny about
say,
it.
can we say that once we get this put to bed, that will make the small subdivisions a priority?
Yeah, I think it should
Let's
be.
just do
Yeah, I
it that way,
agree,
okay?
I agree. I've been trying to think the things that we could take out of this. We can make the process less onerous,
Right,
and we can maybe knock off the pavement and just go with a Linpack or something pavement. Not everybody's gonna be thrilled with that. A lot of people in town would feel we should be paving.
Right, right.
We can probably go, and it's a tiny thing, go without compaction testing. Because we never did compaction testing, we just watched the roller, and when the roller walks out, you compact it. I mean, anybody that's ever built a road knows how to do it without compaction tests.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm reluctant to stop doing it for the bigger subdivisions.
Right, I mean, it's a little tricky in a sense, because, you know, I'm not sure under the subdivision control law how we can really make the process
I
simpler.
don't either.
Because
I
I
don't
think
either.
it still has to fall under that unless we treat it, you know, somehow as an OSRD.
Do you want to ask the town council, not so much, but Bobowski? He may have some sense about it.
Right, that was one of the things I thought it would be helpful to talk to council about, whether it's Ginny or Bobrowski or whomever.
Just some insight.
The detail.
But we don't need to do it, but the point is,
Right.
you don't need to do it yet.
Right, I think we need to get.
Let's get this done, and then we can do it.
The detail of the drawings could be relaxed perhaps, which would cut the engineering costs. We could maybe make the preliminary plan requirements easier, maybe. The definitive plan, you gotta have the property boundaries done.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
mean, I
have to.
think, you know, I think most of the parts and pieces have to be there, I mean,
Yeah,
from,
you can't dodge that.
right.
And you have to have contours, because you have to have the drainage designed.
Right, right, I mean, it's all gotta be part of it. What I would like to see would be easing up on the requirements for road width and things like that, but,
That's gonna be
You know,
tough
that's
though,
gonna be tough
because,
because of
you
the
know, the
fire
guys that drive the fire
department
trucks,
exactly, so.
really wanna see that 11 feet still there.
It's gonna be,
When you say 11,
Oh, that's the.
Per lane.
Per lane, yeah, 22-foot minimum width. The fire truck is 10 feet even out to out of mirrors, and it's the mirrors that kill you. The fire truck itself is pretty, usually about 8 feet, but when you throw the mirrors on, it becomes 10. And,
it'd be nice if you, well, okay, let's not
Yeah.
speculate. This Route 1A in Lower Green, Martha and I chatted about it a little bit the other day. I guess my question, well, first of all, it's Kathleen's issue, so maybe we should defer until she's here.
I think so.
So why don't we just do that? Okay.
Good idea.
So let's defer, but let's say that, let me just go back for a second. So sea level rise, I'm checking off as a priority. Subdivision regs, I'm doing as a priority. Route 1A Lower Green, we're gonna hold. Route 1 Commercial Development. The reason why I had it there was that, I wanted to have a chance to continue. We had made an outreach to the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, Dennis, and trying to see if we can have some discussions with the city of Newburyport on the whole issue of expansion of water. I don't know if this is a major effort that the entire board needs to do, but it's just something that I would like to try to continue to do, because I don't know how we improve what we get out on Route 1 unless we have water. I just don't know how we do it.
sewage would be kinda handy as well.
Yeah, both would be handy.
Yeah.
And extending those there ought to be work that we do, but not as a planning board. It's really Tracy and others who I think who have
I
to do
don't
it as
think,
well.
you know, it's the Foreign Affairs Department, you
Yeah.
know, State Department.
So,
stuff,
so
not-
I think that, you know, and, you know, every time I drive down Route 1, I just get more depressed. You know, between, you know, Angelo's stopped work, you know, the daycare center, you know, that looks like they stopped work, although you
no,
say they
they're,
didn't.
she's packing up, they're closing down Raleigh tomorrow, and
that's good to
they're
hear.
planning to have their grand opening in,
Okay.
I think around September 25th or so. So,
Is Angelo, I agree, he has stopped work. Do you know anything about what he's?
no, and I was thinking it's probably due time to call him, because it's
Yeah.
just been sitting like that for.
Has he
Yeah.
been waiting for steel? I
He
know that
had
was
said
an
it was,
issue.
he had said he was waiting for steel.
Yeah, that's,
It's a long
but
way.
we haven't,
Anyway, so I'm willing to pass over this for the time being, but maybe when Kathleen, because she wrote the study, And when she gets back, we can talk about this one at another time, okay? I mean, her study was an important thing. I hate to waste it. Signs, George?
Signs, I plan to review the sign bylaw, and I think after that is to sit with the Board of Selectmen, since they're the enforcement authority that has been delegated to Sam, the building inspector, just to see what their inclination is going forward. How
Okay.
important is this to have the town enforce it? Apparently, it hasn't been in the past.
I think that's a good idea. So when you what will be your review? You'll review it in terms of its, what are you gonna do?
Review it for its present content, consider whether there has to be at least some notice given to the town by someone who plans to put up a sign, have a sign permit process, possibly. Do those kinds of things that,
The sign
them under
permitting
control.
person is, of course, Sam.
Sam.
So I guess I just don't know. I mean, I see a lot of signs that go up. I assume that he's reviewed them. I don't.
And there's certain ones that are, allowed by right.
Mhm.
So I'm not quite sure what the review process is, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'd be you wanna just, when you do it, just share it with us and then
Oh,
we'll
certainly.
go for it? Okay.
it's not the highest priority in town by any means.
But you're interested in it. I think you
am.
should do it. Okay. All right. So I think that's a George issue. So I'm gonna check it on your side. Affordable housing, Martha, you brought that up?
Yes, and I did, I had a discussion with Jean Nelson in West Newbury regarding the
Oh, you did?
cottages that are going up. She, actually, and I got the decision that they,
Uh-huh.
which I have copies of, and I'll share
I
with
would
all
like
of
to see
you.
that.
She also talked to me sort of about their existing inclusionary bylaw, and they had actually contacted which I think Nick Cracknell was involved with, and they had a consultant come in to take a look at it and possibly redraft it, but it didn't actually get very far. The one that Jean has worked
But they have
with-
one that's been approved.
They have one which has been approved. The one that she referred to me to was actually Hamilton. She thinks that Hamilton has a pretty good one. So that's the one I'd like to look at.
Okay.
It seemed to cover a lot of the things
Well,
that she
I
thought.
will work with you on this.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's a huge planning board responsibility, but if you want to take the lead, I'd be happy to work with you. Do you have any interest in it at all, George?
I can join Martha on that,
Okay.
sure.
I'm very interested in seeing what West Newbury passed, and that project. How many units were being built in the 20s, wasn't it? Of which 5 were affordable? Yeah,
Yeah,
You'll
I
send me
thought
the
it was,
stuff.
I don't remember. I thought it was like 30.
and 20%, like 6?
It might have been 5 or 6.
That's a lot. Most towns have 10.
I can't remember. But there were issues, I mean, one of the things that Jean mentioned to me was that it's very important when the decision is made to make sure that the phasing of the affordable units gets worked into the phasing of construction, so that they
Not
don't-
left till the
not left
last.
till the last.
Yeah.
But actually, it was interesting, in my house hunting, one of the open houses I went to, the broker there was actually involved with the cottage advisors and doing the
Right.
one out in West Newbury, so she was doing her
By
sales
the way,
pitch.
where is it located?
It's, oh God, I can't remember the street. I'll give you the information I've got.
Okay. But it's off, obviously,
It's
just,
off of
it's off of 113.
Off of 113, yeah.
Right. Okay, all right. Well, okay, let's continue to work on that. So we're gonna say that Martha and I will do some work on that along with George. Master plan update, we still, so I did get I sent a note to Frank Remley, from the FinCom, who wanted to sit down with myself and talk about the Finance Committee's issues. And so, actually, I think we might be able to do something later this week, so maybe you get back to you, Martha, maybe you can join me in
Okay.
doing that, okay? Just as a preliminary thing, and then if it expands, we'll do it, have them come here, or we'll all go there. But as just a preliminary meeting, it's Frank and Marshall and you and I.
Makes good sense.
And then we'll see what happens.
Makes
So,
really good sense.
check Martha, I think you wanna maybe do something this Friday, Are you available this Friday or not?
Um,
Otherwise, we can do it in 2 weeks when I get back.
I could be after
Why don't you check?
12:30.
Oh, okay. Can I get back to him tonight and say lunch or something like that at 1 o'clock or something on
Yeah, if
Friday?
he doesn't mind doing it late, otherwise, after you get back. would be-
Okay, okay. Um, Now, the thing that we don't have in the master plan is the open space plan, so that should be just part, right? We didn't include that, but you
Yeah, I didn't
believe,
put it here.
I think there's money there for, personal opinion, whatever it's worth.
Well,
from where is the money?
In the amount that was, is.
Oh, right,
discussed.
I think you're
I
right.
think there's enough
I
money,
think you're right.
more than
I
enough
think
money
you're
to
right.
do them
I
both.
think you're right.
Right.
I think you're right. And everything I've understood from what you've told me, this really should be done.
It should be done. I think one of the things that's on my list to do is to contact the state, because we did have conditional approval, but it was based on the 5-year plan, and while we were doing it, they actually extended it out to 7 years. So, I was gonna call the woman at DCR to see if, if we could possibly take advantage of that, but if the answer's no, we should. I mean, our
Okay.
5 years is up in December, so.
Okay, so what would be the steps of that? Is that just funding it? And then we need to organize a committee for it?
Well, we have the Open Space Committee, which was
they-
basically in charge of the last, I mean, the first round was really the planning, there was an Open Space Committee, but there was heavy planning board presence. The update was primarily the Open Space Committee, and,
When was that?
well, that started in 2006, I think.
So we need to reconstitute this.
So
This
the
hasn't
open
met
spa-
in quite some time,
It
am I
hasn't
right?
met in quite some time, and, there are a lot of reasons for that. But we would need to reconstitute the committee, but I think the feeling is that we really do need to have some outside help to facilitate it, because the committee, it was just too much for the committee to try to
Okay.
deal with.
No, I think we need an outside facilitator for all these things. Master plan, open space, a facilitator, and to work with us on these things. Okay. Small business, okay, then the open planning board position, I guess we've talked about that, haven't we?
Right, we did.
All right, okay. So, Leah, you were the Board of Selectmen met yesterday morning, am I right? Or Monday morning?
They met Monday morning.
Were you here, or?
I
you
was here,
just-
but I didn't know they were meeting, so I
Oh,
didn't
so you don't know.
attend the meeting. It was
Yeah.
very brief. I think it was all of 7 minutes.
Wow.
And I think it was mostly just some business that they needed warrants to sign and things like
Yeah,
that.
okay, all right. MVPC, I guess if David is off, I had expressed an interest in being the MVPC representative. Do we need to do something about that? We need to get David's
I
resignation.
think we need to get his resignation before the board.
Okay,
Or the board could vote to, choose somebody pending
pending
David's.
David's thing? What's your disposition?
Well, that's a selectman appointment anyway.
No,
is
it's
it
not,
It's not?
the alternate is, but
Oh.
Isn't
the,
that strange?
Really?
yeah.
That's weird.
It's the
no,
weirdest thing.
It's the
Yeah.
planning board's choice
Yeah,
to
be
choose
darned.
the planning board
Yeah,
member.
because when I was the person 1,000 years ago, I remember Jimmy Lowell calling me up and asked me if I would do it. It was a selectman appointment
Yeah,
then.
no, it's
Hey,
pretty,
Barbara.
Mass General Law is very clear about that.
Why would that be? It's changed?
I don't know.
I don't know when it changed.
Yeah, so selectmen approve the alternate, but not the commissioner.
Fair enough.
Well, since David has already moved to Newburyport,
We think he has.
We think he has.
well,
We're almost sure.
We don't know.
We're 99% certain, but
Well-
we've been looking for a letter saying,
Sure. Well, one could always call him up and ask him. I'm sure he knows whether he's right.
assuming
He could
has,
answer
then
your
I don't see
question.
a problem having John appointed as the permanent member of the board from MVPC. Have them appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
No, it doesn't have to be, though.
No, it doesn't, it's
No,
just this
it's
board.
just
Just this
this board.
Okay.
You're the alternate, right?
I'm the alternate.
Yeah.
all right. Would you make a motion?
I so move that.
Could I have
What
a
did you
second?
move?
I moved, we recognize that David, I said, is moving or has moved
Sure.
to Newburyport and will be vacating the membership position at MVPC.
Sure.
On behalf of this town, and that we would designate and move to have John Weiss appointed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Did you
Well,
get all that, Martha?
Thank you, guys.
Do
Pretty
I-
much.
Can I have one other question? You had made some comment about looking at site plan review based upon the Attorney General's comments, the inspection provisions.
Right, and I don't know, whether that's something that the board would like to address for the fall town
It looks
meeting.
easy enough to fix. It looks like we said something that was okay, but we said it in the wrong way. For example, we can't use bond money for town expenses, but the intention was, there's a bond there, so if they make a mess, that they don't fix.
I thought,
We have
I
the
thought
bond
that
to
was
fix it.
okay, but just shows you, I haven't read it in a while.
It was the inspection
It
provision.
was the inspection provision that they had the biggest problem with.
Right, but
it.
they didn't,
Was it?
Yeah, they said,
Yeah.
we don't really have the unilateral right without
Well,
notification.
they said that too, I
right,
thought.
but they
That's, I
didn't,
think, their biggest,
Yeah,
they
we
didn't
can't.
they didn't disallow it, though.
but they
in
didn't
any way.
disallow it.
It's
Right,
funny, the
right.
Concom has that right without
Really?
any argument, sure. It's a condition of the, if you want approval, you agree to let the Concom come
Just whenever
onto
they-
your
whenever they
property
want.
Whenever you want, whenever we want,
Wow.
yep.
So it's a question of whether we think that we need to clean it up, well, because it has been approved.
Right. How about if I talk with Ginny
That's a
about
good
it and
That would be
see?
good.
How about that?
The AG
Yeah.
called it a warrantless search, which it is.
It is a
Could be a
warrantless
private-
search.
yeah.
It is a warrantless
Private
search,
Yeah.
property.
right.
However,
I know
it's
what
a
you mean.
mitigated
Yeah, no, I understand.
warrantless search.
Where she did approve the bylaw, however,
That's
I
right.
think she implied, or the AG's office implied, that there's no need to worry about this as long as we don't enforce it the way we've written it.
Right, and,
Well, that's what I was getting at. If we say it a little bit differently,
Right.
one doesn't ever keep the person in charge from going and looking at what you're doing. I mean, that is so basic. That's been going on for literally thousands of years.
And the marijuana bylaw was passed.
Yeah, with no comments.
No
I checked-
comment.
I checked most towns who presented the marijuana bylaw, everybody got passed without comment.
interesting.
Nobody wants to
There's no
touch it.
It's, here it is.
There's no interest.
No,
Nobody wants to touch it.
Huh. How many towns passed them?
oh gee, I said to myself, oh, mine, maybe 25,
With no comments.
no comments.
We had one dissent. One person in the back of the room voted no. I don't know who it was. Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know who it was.
Anything more from the Concom?
No,
Then do, I guess what we know.
the big deal was the two solar arrays. And
Right.
the general feeling of the commission is, yeah, there's some issues there from a wetland standpoint, but they probably can be negotiated out fairly easily. Nothing huge. The other issues that most people had were things that we have no authority to do anything about. Noise and the view of the highway is not a wetlands issue. So we don't have any authority.
Is there a view issue on the Bashaw property?
Nobody
No.
was really concerned.
Yeah,
The
Bashaw
concern-
kinda slid right
Yeah,
along.
the concern really was about the Usair property.
Yeah,
what's
and
the- what's
mostly
the property
Courtney
name?
Drive,
What's the
didn't
other-
you?
The property owner is Yesair, Yesair, off of between Main Street and 95.
And the people that were most concerned seemed to be largely the Courtney Drive.
Courtney Drive people,
Yeah,
because they,
Parker River Clean Water and Joan Puritan did have some questions, but I didn't sense any rabid
right,
objection.
right, and I thought those were, they seemed satisfied with the
Yeah, with the answers
that
they
were-
got, yeah.
But the people on Courtney Drive were concerned about being able to see the arrays and also the impact on their property values.
The noise was something I think they felt was gonna
Well,
be worse because of the vegetation.
Right, noise from 95, once
The
the
thing is, the
vegetation is cut
vegetation
down.
doesn't do a great deal for noise. What would do a great deal for noise is to go build some berms
Yeah.
out of something else. You need something solid. that the sound does this and goes off into the stratosphere eventually,
Yeah,
instead of into your living room.
right. Well, okay,
And there is gonna be a site walk for those that will be coordinated with the selectmen at some,
Yeah,
Point
we're
before.
gonna do it with the selectmen.
okay. All right. Any other issues for the good of the order here? No.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Wow. Less than an hour. Good
Steve?
work, John.
We are out.